going on, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Arena Goat Talk. I'm your host, EJ Burke, just bringing on all the arena greats and just talking football, just talking arena ball, talking this game that we all love. All right, so my next guest is back-to-back champion with the Quad City, and then turned around a program with the Gladiators. So my next guest, Mr. Frank Haege, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, EJ. Blessed to be here. Thank you for having me on. Anytime I can talk arena ball, I am so excited. I love it.
Appreciate it. Like I said, we all love this game and we all just want to share our stories and, just fun to reminisce and, enjoy this brotherhood that we all have.
Yeah, 100%. That's what makes it so great. This different, the relationships you make. You said the brotherhood, everybody working together for common cause and doing something you love to do that is just fun. You don't get that at a regular job, right? You kind of go to work, you do your thing, and then you're kind of out. But it's a lifestyle for sure.
Definitely. So let's talk about your story. So where are you from?
I'm originally from a place you never heard of called the Iron Range. If you're from Minnesota, you know the Iron Range is this blue collar, gritty area way up in northeastern Minnesota near the Canadian border. Ice fishing, hockey, whiskey, tough as nails, working in the mines. I grew up there. My dad was a high school football coach, and loved it. I had a great experience playing high school football and basketball, and pretty much a Minnesota guy.
Okay, so let's talk about your coaching career. Like, what got you into coaching? And we'll start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I played Division III football as a tight end at Wisconsin Stout, and just loved it. Had a great experience. It was a pretty big state school for Division III. We had good stuff, good people, good coaches, good guys. Had a great experience there, and I got my degree in business education. And after I did my student teaching, I was like, I'm not ready to do this, man. I'm just not ready to go to work every day and hang out with, all day, every day. And then I had a couple interviews for like some sales type jobs, And I was like, oh man, how do I stay in college? Like Brian Bosworth in that commercial, Like, how do I keep doing this? So I'm playing football. I'm going out with the fellas, chase a couple girls. Like, this is cool, So then I was like, okay, grad school. Maybe I can be a graduate assistant football coach. So did a little networking. I ended up getting a graduate assistant job at Bemidji State University, a little D2 up in north central Minnesota. And I remember after about a week, I was like, they pay people to do this? Like, are you kidding me? Like, hang out in the office, recruit, watch film, coach guys up. I was like, okay, this is great. So I want to do this. So I GA'd there for 2 years. And, as you know, in coaching, full-time gigs they're hard to get. There's a lot of ex-players trying to get all these full-time jobs, whether it be small college or whatever. So my dad was in the Arena League at the time. He had just gotten in the Arena League with the Milwaukee Mustangs, were expansion team in '94. And he was there. The head coach was Lou Saban, who was O.J. Simpson's coach. He was the head coach of the Buffalo Bills way back in the day. And dude was like 77 and half nuts. And it was crazy. But anyway, so about a week before the season, my dad calls me and says, hey, our special teams guy is not coming. And I talked to Lou. He said, yeah, man, come on down. So I threw my stuff, my little Dodge Colt. I drove me to Milwaukee. And same thing. I just loved it. It was crazy. It was so fun. I mean, we're playing at the Bradley Center downtown Milwaukee. First game, place is sold out. Everybody's going crazy. I'm looking around like this is awesome. As you know, this was kind of the heyday when arena was really kicking off. So I was in Milwaukee. And we went 0-14. Last game of the year, we're 0-13. We're up the whole game. We get down to, I think we're playing Cleveland. We drive down. We spot it up. We got Kenny Stucker, short field goal, best kicker in the league, really good player. Doinked it off that dang iron. Lost the game. Owner came in the locker room, threw all the stuff around, fired everybody. Head coach, assistant coaches, every player, fired everybody on the spot. Wow, what is going on? This is out of control. And well, it was actually the owner's kid was our GM. He was like 25, like this, this rich dude, Velazzi. I think he was in the mafia, dude. He wore the silk tie and dude, and supposedly ran a marketing company. You know what I mean? But anyway, he owned the team, and his kid came in and fired everybody and tipped over the table, and the Gatorade went everywhere, and it was awesome, man. It was awesome. So I had that experience, and then so then in '95, my dad went to Iowa Barnstormers. So I went there and I just volunteered. I didn't get paid a penny the whole year. Just stayed his team apartment, volunteered, helped out. I can't remember what I coached. I think I helped out with like kind of linebackers, receivers, jacks, and then did that. And we were good there. With John Greger was a head coach. We had a really good team there. Had Kurt Warner. Got to know Kurt. So that was cool. And then in '96, they started the team in my home state of Minnesota, the Minnesota Fighting Pike.
Yep, I remember.
Remember the Pike? Yeah, man, a big fish on a helmet, and scales on the pants. It was ridiculous, but it was cool. We played at the Target Center. Those bigger cities, it's a harder sell, but our crowds were pretty decent, really, especially early in the year. Ricky Foggy was our quarterback, great player from the University of Minnesota, and coached there. And then the day after the last game came, we got paid on Wednesdays. I got paid on Wednesday. I took my check to the bank on Friday, bounced. Like, what do you mean bounced? They're like, yeah, the account's closed, blah blah. So they just folded shop. They just shut it down. So in 3 years, I've been fired and with a team that went bankrupt. That sounds about right, right?
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah, so, but I was undeterred, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is still fun. Like, I don't got any kids or anything. I can bang around and do this,
Mm-hmm.
So, and, both those jobs were not full time. I was making, I don't know, 10 grand, if that, or whatever, an apartment, and get the meal tickets, right?
Mm-hmm.
The punch cards, the buffets and stuff, man. I was like, this is great. So we trained at this little college, Augsburg University, which is a Minneapolis Division III school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to know those guys. So I stayed there then and coached there part-time that fall. Loved that. Great kids. And then the next year, I got on my first I remember telling myself, if I don't have a full-time job by the time I'm 30, maybe I got to get a regular job. I don't want to, but maybe I think I was like 27 or 28.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on with the New Jersey Red Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
John Hufnagel was the head coach, and I was the defensive coordinator for the Red Dogs. And the Red Dogs did it pretty good. They had good ownership, good money, good offices. Our practice facility was solid. Our head coach, Sean Hufnagel, was a CFL vet, and he did it right. For the first three places I were kind of haphazard.
Mm-hmm.
It was nuts. But we had a couple really good teams there. In '97, I think we went to the semis one year, lost to Orlando. But we had Aaron Garcia, one of the all-time greats, was our quarterback. We were pretty solid there. And then after 2 years there, they started Arena Football 2.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I got a call. I don't know if I had a cell phone at that time. I came to the office. Who knows? Jim Foster, the man who invented the game, right? He's an Iowa guy. He had owned the Barnstormers. He knew me from that when I volunteered there for that year. And he said, hey, we're starting this new league, Arena Football 2. I'm putting a team in the Quad Cities. Would you like to be our head football coach? I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. Because Hufnagel was just left for the Giants. And I didn't get the head job. One of the other assistants got the head job, guy Frank Mattias. So I was like, okay, this is perfect timing, right? Because, Mattias was going to keep me, but I'd also interviewed for the head job. It's always awkward, when you kind of have that situation. So anyway, so it was perfect. So I took the head job at the Quad Cities. And, as those media markets, the Des Moines, the Quad Cities, some of these other smaller mid-sized cities, sometimes it really goes really well because it's the big show in town,
Mm-hmm.
Orlando, right? It can really be a hot ticket. So I went there, Arena Football 2. New team, new league, just kind of making it happen. I didn't even have an office. We just kind of hung out in the arena and, had 2 assistants, both part-time. But anyway, just scoured the waiver wire from Arena 1 and signed guys. And that, first game comes, I think we played Tulsa, and You know, the place held 10,000. It's packed. It's sold out, man. It's just place was off the chain, and we had an amazing team. We went 19-0, which I think is probably still some kind of record. You know, won the Arena Cup. We were on back then. We were on TNN. Eli Gould made the call. That's crazy, right?
Eli Gould, yep. I talked to him a couple years ago. He's in Nashville still.
I saw that. He's still working, man. That's crazy. Good for him, man. That's awesome. So then year 2 came. Same thing. Our tennis went down a little bit, but you know, when the playoffs came, they showed out and went 18-1, won it again. And then now I'm a commodity now all of a sudden, right? It's crazy, right? Like 3 years before that, I was scrapping for a gig. But you know, as you know, you go somewhere and win. Heck, now you only got to win 1 year, you get moved up. You know, back then you had to win 2 or 3 years in a row to get another opportunity. So anyway, phone rang one day. The New Jersey team was now the Gladiators, new ownership. Chris Mara of the Mara family of the New York Giants was actually our general manager, which is crazy. He's the director of player personnel for the Giants today still. And hey, you want to come back to New Jersey? Yeah, let's do it. You know, so went back to New Jersey as the head football coach there. They had been, I think the year before, they were 2-12. We turned around that thing, went 9-5. I think, which was some kind of turnaround record. Went to the second to the semis. Went to the semis that year. Again, lost to Orlando. I'm pretty sure Jay Gruden and Orlando beat us at home. Kenny McIntyre got a pick, seal the game. The glove was a good man.
Be known for.
Yeah, man. So, okay, so I'm out there, and you know it's all cool, but the attendance is poor, right? Big city. We're playing at Continental Airlines Arena at the Meadowlands. Not a very good following. You know, you go up to the bars, do a bar promotion. Like, what are you guys? What's that? You know what I mean? Arena football. You know, what are you talking about? So again, one day in the off season, the owner, another Italian, Jimmy Ferraro, he's a lawyer guy, crazy guy, mega rich guy. He's like, hey, you ever been to Vegas? I'm like, no. I'm thinking this is going to take me on a private jet. You know, we're going to go on a trip to Vegas. So I'm like, I'm down. He goes, well, pack up. We're moving the team. All right, cool. Okay. All right. Same thing, like I said before. I don't have any kids or anything, right? So let's put the stuff in the car, the better car now, but still, all your stuff fit in the trunk. You had you had the one big TV, the big box TV. That's the only thing he had to weigh anything. Throw that in the back seat, throw your clothes up in there. Boom, Vegas. Get out to Vegas. And now we're playing in the West, and the West is no joke, right? San Jose, LA was good at the time. And Arizona Rattlers, right? So the East Division wasn't nearly as strong. We won the East the year before. So we go to the West Division. We go 8-8. We're solid. Made the playoffs. Lost the first round to Arizona, Danny White, Arizona. And then year 2 comes around, and we go 8-8 again. Don't make the playoffs. I get fired. Right, or welcome to Arena Ball. Right, my contract actually said if I won 9, I was good. I lose 8, I had a buyout. So it bought me out. So I'm up out of there. Now I had just gotten engaged. Oh, actually, I was married like a year, just right around that time. Just previous to that, had a little boy. So like we were talking about earlier, is arena football is great, but it's hostile and volatile for the workplace. All these minor league sports pretty much are. So I was like, all right, maybe I can get another Arena 1 head gig, maybe for sure, be an assistant somewhere, but I'm back in the trade show, right? The circus, right? Moving here to there, the whole deal like we're talking about, because that's just the nature of the beast. So I ended up going back to Augsburg University, where I had been an assistant as the head coach. I was like, okay, this is cool, small college, you know what I mean? We could be, so I went up there, and they had been horrible, and we got that thing turned around. And I was there 15 years. I was the head football coach at a little small college. And the last couple of years, we weren't very good. We were terrible when we got there. We got it going. We were pretty good for about 10 years. Started slipping. And, my wife is a physician's assistant. And she's like, this is crazy. Let's just move back to my hometown. I can get a good job anywhere. You'll figure something out. So stepped down from there. And then I came down here. And now I'm just north of Iowa City. little town, Solon, Iowa. I work in recreation, and then I'm assistant football coach at the high school, which is super enjoyable. I have more jokes at one practice than I do in a week at work. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? Even with the high school kids, much less the arena guys. That's
Of
that's a
course.
joke a minute. Those dudes, that was really fun. So yeah, man. So here I am. My basement. Still got my arena stuff on the wall.
I see.
Got 3 boys. My oldest is a golfer. He golfs at Mount Mercy, little NEI school right down the road here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as a senior. And I
Okay.
got twin boys that are sophomores and playing football, basketball, baseball at the high school.
All right, sounds good. So
Yeah.
when you first got a taste of arena or even looked at it, like what was your thoughts? What did you think about the game and how it was played, like the whole makeup of the game?
Yeah, well, I loved it because I was like a receiving tight end in high school and college. So obviously that was a West Coast offense, was real popular back then. So I love the passing game, and I remember, you'd see it on a little bit here or there on TV, and they'd show the highlights and this, that, the other. And so I kind of knew about it. But then, once you start practicing it, it's a 5-man box with a 3-man line. So, you got to throw the football. And I'm like, this is great because it's all set up for the offense to score points, which is a great design, because that's what the fans want to see, especially at the minor league level, right?
Mhm.
So I just love the design. Small field, a lot of points. There's a couple things that I would probably change, but overall, I thought it was really ingenious how Jim Foster, those guys set it up that, hey, it's going to be a shootout. And if you're any good, it's going to be like basketball. You're going to have a chance at the end, to win the game. That's like the rule, you couldn't take a knee. You had to gain positive yards and stuff like that to give everybody a chance. To get that thing going. So as far as schematically goes, I loved it, and I loved working with the pro guys. In college they're adults, but you still got to kind of watch your P's and Q's, and they're still kind of kids. But college, everyone's grown man, or at the arena league, so you could cut it up with the guys, go out with the guys, whatever. So just that whole side of it was really cool.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about like the recruiting process? Because it's not like you're NFL, and so you get the cream of the crop, sort of say. Like, how is your approach in recruiting in talking to the guys about coming to play arena football?
I love that part of it. Really, I really enjoyed the personnel thing. My dad was a long time. He was with Iowa Barn Source for a long time, and he was kind of known as a personnel guy. He's the guy's he found Kurt Warner actually, and Freddie Jackson also. But anyway, so I really like that part. So when I was in Arena 2, my thought process was, okay, I'm going to get the best guys that just got cut out of Arena 1 because they know the game, they've been around the game, they know what they're getting into. So I would just go through the waiver wires and call every coach and go through his waivers from the year before, make my list like that. And back then you couldn't find a guy on Twitter, so you had to get the phone number from the coach, which was a whole art form in itself. So that's how I put that team together. And then I also reached out to, the regional colleges looking for a kind of a diamond in the rough, maybe a really good small college guy that I never got opportunity. I got a couple guys like that too. Funny story on that. So I'm the Quad City Steamwheelers, and we're playing. I think we're playing the Arkansas Twisters, and my fullback linebackers are all Division III guys. I got Frank Carter, who's ended up being all arena first team a couple times. He's from McMurray College in Illinois. I had this kid Rusty Van Wetzinga, who's from Augustana College in Rock Island. Then I had this kid Josh Fordyce, who was from Knox College, and Knox College is like bad Division III football, right? But these guys were good. I always like, you put on a film. I don't care what your pedigree is, where you played, high school or college or whatever. I'm gonna put on a film, and I'm gonna come work you out, and either you can play or you can't. And we were playing Little Rock, and one of our assistant coaches says, "Hey man, do you see their fullback linebackers? They got a guy from Auburn, and their other guy is from a UAB." I'm like, "Yeah, did you watch the film?" He goes, "Yeah, but that one guy started." I said, "We're going to kick their ass." I said, "Watch our D3 guys, the D3 boys, we call them. Watch these guys kick their ass." And we just kicked their ass, up and down the field. And those guys held their own there too. So I kind of like to pride myself in that. I'm going to watch a film. I'm going to work guys out as much as I can. Got burnt several times to sign a guy and you just bring him in, without being able to work him out in person. So that was kind of my deal there. And then when I got in Arena 1, that's an interesting deal because you got to have some vets, right? That can that play the game, that know the game, but you can only afford so many, vets, especially the higher end ones. And there's nothing worse than a salty vet that's really not playing or doesn't really have a role, right? Those guys are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? The young guys are hungry. So I always wanted to have a handful of good vets, and then I wanted to have a bunch of younger guys that maybe are the first year, 2, 3 in the league. Maybe they play, and I would go hard after the indoor football league guys that were the best guys. I would look at the stats and watch the films, and I would try to get some top guys out of the IFL to go along with the Arena Football League vets. Try to stay away from journeyman, but sometimes you had to pick one up, maybe a pass rusher or something like that, because if a guy's been on 5 teams in 5 years, and he's good, like you're going to have your hands full. But every once in a while, you got to go with a guy like that. But anyway, so that's how I kind of took that on. We would go to a few NFL training camps and kind of scout the bottom of the roster and see if we could get a guy or two like that. But that was hard. Those guys, their agents would always tell them not to do it, because we'll get another shot. You'll get another shot in the league, So you talk to the agent and go back and forth, and if they're not all in, you want those. So I like the guys that were vested, and then the guys that were kind of fresh and new and hungry, and were super coachable, ready to roll.
Yeah, like looking at how I tried to put together rosters over the last couple of years. I would love a mix, mostly young, but get you a vet quarterback along with a young quarterback so they can kind of bounce off of each other and compete. Definitely, a mixture of vets in my defensive backfield. Maybe, in my opinion, maybe one, maybe 2 vet receivers. Everybody else, young, hungry guys. Off or linemen is pretty much the same thing. You just want young and hungry. I didn't want like vets who come in and they want things a certain way, and it's like, oh, did you win a championship the way that you came from? If not, then we need to change it. You know what I mean? They play it like the journeyman that you talked about. They'd be a journeyman forever, but they never won a championship or anything like that. But they come to you and try to tell you how to do certain things. Like, we're trying to win a championship, so if you haven't won a championship the way that you've been doing it, well, we're gonna do something else.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, for sure. Those guys, pain in the ass guys, right? We would call them the vets that maybe been around a little bit too long would kind of drive you nuts, and they'd complain about the equipment, just anything. You know what I mean? Just like could travel, like stop, man. I want the guy like, oh wow, we get to get on an airplane. This is awesome. You know what I mean? So. You know what I mean? So if the per diem's not that good, they don't care. They're just so excited to be there, and get the opportunity. Yeah, we all love the young, hungry guys, especially the overachiever guy, right? If you find that guy that everybody else thought was too slow or too short or whatever, and you can find a spot for him. Yeah, no, for sure. And then looking at like where you're going to spend your money, for sure. Obviously, you got to have a quarterback, right? I mean, if you don't have a quarterback, it's game, set, match. So whatever you got to do to get a quarterback, whatever you got to pay him, however you got to recruit him, whatever you got to do, definitely number one. And then really number 2 after that, you got to have a pass rush. So we try to spend our maybe our next 1 or 2 guys, like, nose and an end that can really get there. We had Rob Stewart, we had some guys that could get there. And then you got to have that 1-star receiver though, too, right? You got to have one guy that plays the middle mostly that can score a touchdown at any time. If you don't have that guy, you might be in trouble too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then in our defense, really, that middle safety's got to be a dude.
Yes, he does.
He might not be the vet because the vet might be too slow by then. He might have to play the boundary corner.
Yeah, but he'll coach everybody up on the back end. Hey, watch out for this. I may not have it left in my legs, but hey, watch for this. Watch for the sail on this one. Use them young legs. I'm telling you where to go.
Yes, get guys lined up for sure. Yeah, and then pretty much younger guys at every other spot, really, honestly.
Definitely.
The center was huge too. If you didn't have a good center, you're in trouble, right?
Yes.
You have one true center on the roster,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So
that was a problem because I felt like, well, every level of football, linemen are the hardest to get, right?
offensive lineman, that was
In
such a
particular.
struggle the last couple of years, and it still is. I talk to guys trying to help them and get guys. And offensive lineman is always the position that there's not enough of them out there.
Yeah,
Everybody's struggling to find offensive linemen these days.
yeah, a lot of when those guys are done, they're done, right? They're done with college. They don't get a shot in the league or whatever. They drop 50 pounds. They're done. To keep that weight on and that muscle mass on, like that's a lot for a lot of guys, and not to be the star, to be a blue collar guy, at a lower level. That's
Mhm.
asking a lot. There's not that many guys that are hardcore that want to do that, and I get it.
So this is what we talked about before, right?
Yeah,
One of
yeah,
those
yeah,
letters. So
yeah,
talk
man.
talk about that. People who don't know, how the recruiting process kind of went. Like this is, a letter that I received way back in the day when you guys are, reaching out trying to get recruits. Like not everybody knows how that process goes, and not everybody did it like you guys did it. So I guess kind of speak on that so people know, how the recruiting process went for you.
Yeah, so and again, EJ, when you messaged that to me, man, I was so great to see that and read it. And I mean, I wrote that myself. There was no AI back then, so AI would have changed that all up, but it brought back a lot of memories. And then I was looking at that thing. I was like, how did we get? Yeah, I never had EJ, but how did that? So now I look back, I remember that when I went to Arena One. I think that was my first year in Arena One as a head coach with the New Jersey Gladiators. We wanted to get the top AF2 talent, and I believe you were with Cape Fear. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Cape Fear Wildcats. You guys had a squad, and I think you were the player of the year for sure. All Arena Two. Were you the
Mhm.
defensive player of the year that year?
I was lineman of the year.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, the defensive lineman before me. He won defensive player of the year and lineman of the year. He had 20 sacks. Then I came the year after and had 27 and a half sacks. I'm like, I was happy for him, but I was like, man, I had 7.5 more sacks.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you give me both of them? They just gave me lineman of the year. I was like, you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was that? The guy before you? Remember?
Ernest Sertain, I believe.
Oh yeah. I remember that name.
Yeah, he was in Tampa for years, and he
Yeah.
was a beast. But I'm just looking at, it's all competition. Like y'all gave him both of them awards, and I beat his record. Y'all need to give me those, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's just being a competitor. You're trying to get the best of the best.
Yeah, so again, back then, like you couldn't just hit a guy up on Twitter. So what we would do is we would put together a database. We had Excel and Word and all that stuff. So we put together a database of the best players in Arena Two, best players indoor football league. Try maybe some NFL cuts if we could figure out where they were, and we sent them a paper letter, that said, "Hey, we're interested. If you're interested, come on back to us because heck, we might not even have your phone number."
Yeah.
And then so guys would hit us back or whatever, and then they'd have to send a VHS, and if we didn't have film of them in the dang mail or whatever, you try to get a hold of their coach and try to put together the best squad you could. And again, I was big on I loved AF2 guys. When I went from the Quad Cities to New Jersey and turned that thing around, I brought 6 guys with me, and they were all ballers. They were all Arena One ballers, and you see that now. With in the college, right? All these guys come from James Madison, or whatever, and they ball. They're not FBS bus. A lot of them are go from the FCS to FBS and ball out. Same thing. If you're good, if you're a baller, you're a baller. So get those guys out, top guys out of Arena Two, and get many of those top quality guys that we could.
So, kind of touch on like the difference. One, the style of play. Two, kind of the recruiting aspect, but the difference between AF1 and AF2.
Yeah, like we were talking earlier, is the line play is always the toughest thing to get, but it's also the biggest differentiator, right, between levels. So I remember, when we were in the Quad Cities, we had that run, people would try to say, oh, they could beat some Arena One teams and this, that, the other. And my kind of opinion was we probably wouldn't. But if it was a game of Skelly, we would probably hang in there.
Mm-hmm.
So our skill guys could play. Most of our star skill guys end up, pretty much all of them went up to Arena One, but only a couple of our linemen did. So that was the biggest difference at that time, or still is, I'm sure, is the line play. Trying to make sure you get the best guys you can up front, but those are also the hardest guys to get. And the style of play in arena football from the outdoor game, as you very well know, is very different. Like you look for, say at the quarterback position, it didn't matter how big a guy's arm was. That's a small field.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter if he could run or not. There's nowhere to go. That jack linebacker sitting there. So you need a guy that's got pocket presence, arm talent, quick release, accuracy, and tough. God, you're going to get rockets, right? Because you're throwing that ball 50 times a game. You're going to, Aaron Garcia, Dalzell, all Warren, all those guys were tougher than nails, because they were going to get hammered. So I wouldn't care if a guy could throw the ball 70 yards. The field's only 50. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Accuracy, quick release, be able to move around in the pocket a little bit, and tough. Toughness was the even more so than the outdoor game because you're throwing the ball more often, and the edge is shorter, right? The edge is outside the guards now. Mm-hmm. It's not outside the tackles.
So that ball's gotta be gone.
Yeah, you're gonna get there now. You're gonna get there in 2, not 3 seconds. And then different positions, were a little bit different too. I'd say receivers are probably pretty similar, but defensive backs, the high safety guy, he's got to be a guy that can get over the top and fly around and take away the deep stuff. And you could get away with a couple of physical guys, maybe especially on the field side. And the guy doesn't have to cover the motion, because he's going to get hitched to death now. So he's got to be able to come and tackle a hitch all day long. And as the fullback linebacker position was pretty unique there, right? The max, the pass rusher, the fullback's a blocker, almost a lineman kind of guy. So I think that's what I think that's a big reason we had a lot of success is. There's a new league, so people didn't even know who should be playing where, how to rotate them or sub them, or what kind of guy to even look for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so talk about some of the guys that you coached. We talked about Frank Carter. I always remember him as probably one of the best pass rushing linebackers that I've seen in my years. But just kind of reminisce, talk about some of the guys that you've coached and you've seen in your time in arena.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of them, there's a lot of, but, starting off when I was in Milwaukee, we were so bad that we were just kind of signing guys and getting journeymen. And you remember Sugar J, Ralph Jarvis at all? You remember that name? Might have been he was before your time.
Yeah, definitely before my time. I feel like I've heard that name, but I have no recollection.
Sugar J now, he was a journeyman, but he could come off the edge and raise hell every time. But so before like the first game, one of the front office people come down the office like, hey, can one of you coaches go talk to Ralph Jarvis? He's out in the parking lot. He's in his pants and t-shirt and he's selling tickets out there. I'm like, what? So they send me, the young guy. I got a coach out, Sugar J. He's out there, and he had, the guys get the player tickets, right?
Yeah.
Well, he would any extras. Hey man, using your tickets. He'd collect all the tickets. Then he would go out there like an hour before the game, right before we warmed up. Kind of do the pregame warm up, and you come in, and then he would go out to the parking lot, or he did, and do his selling tickets.
I've never had any player, or even I have never heard any story like that. Nobody
would
do that.
So I'm like, Ralph, man, come on, man. Can't be doing, hey, coach, man, I got to make a couple bucks, man. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I know, man, we all got money problems, but come on, man. You can't be doing this. So got him in there, and it's the same dude. So me and one of the other coaches had an apartment. We had a team car, right? Dealer car, which is another great perk. And Sugar J, I don't know, we had a couple of days off or whatever. The game's Friday, watch film Saturday. I think we have to be back till Monday. So Russ, hey, coach, man, can I borrow your whip? I'm like, what do you need to do? I got to go see this girl. I can't remember what he said. I'm like, all right, dude is gone till Wednesday. 4 or 5 days. Dude is gone.
Come
And
back here, please.
there's no cell phones, you know what I'm
Oh
saying?
wow, yeah, definitely.
So he's in the wind, and he just shows up like no big deal, and that's where right there I was like, okay, I'm not doing this with it. We're not getting guys like this. That's, you know what I mean? And he was so good and we were so bad, like we weren't going to cut him, you know what I mean? We dealt with it, but he was a character, man. And our quarterback that year, we started off with a couple of college kids and they were terrible. We ended up signing John Forcade, who was the starter for the Saints at one time.
I remember him.
Remember Johnny Forcade?
I remember
He played and coached in all these minor leagues, right? All probably
him.
till not too long ago. And so I pick up Forcade waiting at the airport, and here comes this dude. Looks like he's 40, and he's walking at me. I got the little sign, and I'm looking. He's got cowboy boots on, jeans. He's only about 5'10", going bald. And he's like, you one of the coaches? I thought he was a fan or something. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I'm John Forcade. I'm like, what? Okay. And he had this little bag, right? It was about this big, And so we're walking out, this little carry-on, and I start going down, and I walk down to the baggage claim, and he's like, where are we going? I said, well, we'll get your bags. He goes, I'm good. He was there for the whole year. This bag about this big. Dude probably had a couple pair of underwear, fresh t-shirt. I don't know, man. He was going to go. And he had to have some money. He played in the league for a handful of years. So he was a character. He would cash his check after the game. He didn't have a card on there. I would take him to the Western Union and he'd cash it cash. And he would just, go to the bar and just blow it. Just blow it. It was hilarious, man. He was a character. Johnny Forcade. But some of the greatest players I had, you talked about Frank Carter at the fullback linebacker spot. I always had some other good players. I had Clint Dalzell when I was in Las Vegas at quarterback. He's one of the greats. I don't know where he's top 3 in probably every stat, top 5 for sure. He's a head coach at Texas A&M Commerce, I think, right now. Yeah. But he was a great player, tough, tall, Texas guy. Talk crap, give guys shit. Just compete his ass off. But fun guy to be around. He was with the Bears for a little bit. He was a lot of fun. And we had Marcus Nash at our middle receiver. And Marcus Nash now 6'4", 6'5", 220. I don't know what he ran, but he's fast. He was a first-round draft pick. Tennessee, first-round draft pick with the Broncos. Spent 4 years there. But once he hit that, they got his new minimum salary so high, and he wasn't a starter. He was kind of a backup receiver. They let him go, and no one picked him up. It was crazy. So but as you got to get a couple of guys like that at Arena One back in the heyday, because then it was the second best football in the world, right? Arguably with the CFL, it might have been better.
We were on the same level. It was NFL, and then it was either go Arena or CFL. But salary wise, we were here.
Yes, but after you did the American Exchange and taxes, the Arena salaries were very similar, and guys would rather stay in the States, right? Yeah. It's less hassle, and you're not out in the freezing cold, that kind of thing. So we would all recruit guys to go to the CFL back then, which is crazy. So you got to, and you had, you didn't have to have any Canadians on your team. So I would say it was the second best football in the world, for sure, for quite a while. So those were a couple of great guys I had down the stretch when I was in Las Vegas with the Gladiators. We had Aaron Garcia when I was an assistant in New Jersey, who's again one of the all-time greats. I'm sure you know that name. He coached for a long time, also threw for 1 million yards, and did a million things. And I had a few guys that kind of stuck with me for a long time. I remember Alvin Ashley,
receiver.
Little tiny dude, about $150. I had him. He went everywhere with me. I had him in 5 different places, but just quick, nasty, find space, make guys miss. Could never get him to look at the next level because he was too small. But man, he could play arena football. He's just so shifty, and he could play a little corner too, so he could two-way if he wasn't the OS. But he was probably the guy I had probably the most of the longest. And he just kind of, you get your guys, right? you get, both as coaches and players, those guys kind of go around with you.
Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, just definitely, definitely always wanted to have you on, and talk some arena ball. Let everybody know your story and tell this arena football story from your angle.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was, the all fun league, right? It was all, I mean, you talk, you hear these horror stories and about the hours these guys in the NFL, sleeping in their office and all that stuff. Heck, in arena, coaches, we get there 7 in the morning, 8, practice, 10 to noon or whatever. Heck, the players were out of there at noon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd watch a little film. We'd be out there 2 or 3 in the afternoon. We'd be out of there, man. We'd go golf or something,
Mm-hmm.
But it's 8 on 8, and the rules were such that you can't do a million different things. You can only do so many things. So you just make sure you have your matchups right, your guys are right, and there's no reinventing the wheel, right? You're gonna run middle motion, post or quarter, right to Poco, couple check downs. That was half the game, right?
God forbid you find a receiver that master that Poco. You're gonna be doing that every couple plays.
That's it. Yeah, maybe their boundary quarter isn't that good, so you whip them around in the boundary and try to match up on that dude, or or whatever. Yeah, man, you do that all day long, and just be like, have somebody ball out tonight, maybe who's gonna step up? We need somebody to ball, man. Make me look good, man. I'm telling you, guy just make me look good. Hey, coach, man, you give me the ball, make you look good. All right, bet. Let's do it.
I always say it's all about matchups.
Yes.
When it comes to that, it's literally like I always say, arena ball is designed to showcase talent. You literally just playing matchups. Oh, that their middleman can't cover.
Yes.
Oh, or their offensive line is terrible. So I already know what I can do. The quarterback's not going to have much time, so I can do this on the back end, whatever. It's like there's so many. I just love the design of the game, and I'm one of the guys I felt like I stepped right in, and the game was perfect for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Edge rusher, man. Come around the corner, push the pocket, be able to get you tall, put your hands up. Yeah, and the same thing like defensive line. I remember we would have like a system where, if our best pass rusher, he gets to line up on either side, depending who they got at guards. If this guy's, you go over there, you know what I mean? We'll let this other guy go over here, try to get his hands up. Yeah, yeah. If their center wasn't very good, you might play. Put your best pass rusher at nose on certain downs or for that game.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but kind of last question is, what kind of advice would you give to, any players that are thinking about playing arena or thinking about, extending their playing career and, trying to find somewhere to play? What kind of advice would you give to those guys?
But if you say no and you take a real job, I'll punch you in the nose. You know what I'm saying? Like, go and play, have some fun. It is such a great experience. You got your whole life to work a job. You're going to do your 40, right? You're going to do your 40 hours for 40 years. You know what I mean? You're going to do your time for the man. You got a couple of years to escape from that, play some ball and have some fun. Like, go do that. You're in front of crowds, you're in front of people. You get to be around the fellas. Like, it is so fun. When I was at Little Augsburg University, the head coach, I had this really good linebacker who had a chance to go over to Germany and play. And I remember I had in my office, I never really cussed guys out in Division III, but I was cussing this kid out because he wasn't going to go do it. Well, what in the hell are you thinking? They're going to fly you over there, pay you a little bit. You get to run around and play football. Like, come on, we'll have this internship and this, that, that'll be there. And on your resume, it'll say pro football player. They're going to want to talk about that in the interview. They don't care about what classes you took. They're going to want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna think that's the thing, man. So now, man, go out, give it a shot, have some fun. Very few guys are gonna make it to the league and make a living. But that's just like winning the lottery, man. But if you got a chance to play, you're a very blessed and special person. Go ahead and do it. And enjoy the heck out of it.
Good. All right. So again, appreciate you coming on and telling your story, and whatever I can do to help you and whatever you're doing, reach out and vice versa. But again, I appreciate your time and your stories.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, EJ. This has been a pleasure. Great to catch up with you. I remember you like it was yesterday coming off the edge against Orlando or for Orlando in the Arena League, man. It's crazy. It's been what, 25, 30 years, but it seems like it was, last weekend. Really. Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, shoot. Have a good night, and we'll definitely be in touch. And just good luck with everything.
Sounds good. Same to you.
All right. Have a good
All
night.
right.